Hey everyone, so today we are going to go over some of the questions that you submitted for our Q&A today. Thank you everybody who submitted a question. I will do my best to get through as many as I can. Probably won't get to all of them today, but hopefully we can do this again. All right, let's get started. So first up is, at what point in your musical career or theory studies did you realize you could make it click with this product? Thanks for your hard work. Thank you very much. So the thing about Hooktheory is we never really intended for this initially to be a company. Chris, Dave, and I all went to university together, and at our school, we were essentially allowed to teach a class. They let students teach a class. They teach classes on like The Simpsons, on Fortnite, kind of whatever you want. And we decided to teach a class on the theory of popular music. So how did we come up with this idea? Well, I've been a musician my whole life. Dave and Chris kind of are musicians too. Chris plays guitar. Dave played piano for many years, and I studied piano classically. I was always kind of interested at an early age about what made my favorite songs tick. I think like many of you, when I hear a song that I really like, it just it evokes like an emotional response, and I wanted to create that myself. And so at some point, we started kind of thinking more critically about, in popular music, what are the patterns that people are using? I should also mention that we all have engineering backgrounds, so that's what we studied in school. So it's kind of a more systematic, scientific way of approaching this problem. But just after playing music for a long time and writing music, we realized that there are a lot of these patterns, and some of them they teach you in kind of a conventional music theory class, and some of them they don't. So we decided to kind of compile all of our ideas, and we made this course, and we had about 40 students, where we just kind of went over some of the basic concepts, some of the stuff that many of you will be familiar with from our books. And at the end, the final project was everyone wrote a song, and we had a concert, and it was really great. Because we were kind of engineers and had coding experience, in addition to writing a lot of the concepts in the book, we also developed some software to help create the examples in the book and to teach our courses. And this was really kind of like an early version of Hookpad. And in the beginning, what we now call theory tabs, these were examples in the book. We created all these ourselves. So there wasn't really a proper editor for doing that, and the purpose was really just to create examples to teach these concepts. And once the course was over, it was really a lot of work. Any of you who are teachers know it's really a lot of work to teach a class. We decided we would just kind of put these materials online. And in the beginning, like nobody really used it. It wasn't very good. The interface was super clunky. What Hookpad, the early version of Hookpad, was written in Flash. So it was it was doomed to be kind of a technology failure. But I think the moment that it kind of clicked was when we decided to allow other users to start analyzing songs. At the time, there wasn't really a theory tab database. There was just, the database was just basically the songs that we had analyzed for the examples in the book. But we were just really blown away by all the users who were super committed to analyzing music in the system. And it was just super amazing. I mean, that was probably one of the best feelings that we had like maybe 200 songs that I had like basically analyzed myself. And then in a couple of years, we had like 12 or 1,300. And it was it was amazing to me that everyone wanted to be a part of this community. So that was really special, and I think that's kind of when we started taking this a little more seriously and turned these things into products. So this was really never supposed to be kind of a business at first. It was kind of more of a passion project, and I think that one of the reasons why we care so much about it now is this does still feel like a passion project to us. So we all have day jobs kind of in engineering fields, but we work very hard on Hooktheory in our off time because we care very deeply about it. And I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a business the whole time, if we would feel the same. So that's kind of a long answer to that question, but that's kind of how we got our start. Okay, next question is, any plans on porting Hookpad to mobile? iOS, Android, it's been greatly helpful to sketch random ideas going through my head. I think it'd be really cool to do so on the go. So yeah, we have thought about this a lot. One of the big challenges with Hookpad is that it is very keyboard and mouse intensive. And, it's just one of those things that it's definitely something that we eventually want to do. We need to figure out a way to not make it a horrible experience, with your fingers, being able to do, because, many of you probably have had some experience with mobile like DAWs, like GarageBand on iPhone and iPad, and at least for me personally, like the experience is quite a bit less productive than it is on my computer, and so it's essentially when we do this, we want to make sure that we have a plan, that this isn't going to be kind of a clunky, unusable product. That's something that's going to be as useful to you guys as on the computer. So yes, this is definitely on our radar. Okay, let's see. Oh, we have a music question next. So the question is, I understand sus2 and sus4, but I would like to know which one I should use and when. So the thing to understand about sus2 and sus4 is, and this is true for any chord quality, it drastically depends on which chord you are sussing. So say I'm in like the key of C major. If you put a sus on a 1 chord, like the C chord here, that's very different than the function of a sus chord on, say, a 5 chord. So tangibly, what is the difference? So what I would say is that on a 1 chord, it's kind of like an embellishment. So I have like a 1 chord, and I can kind of like noodle around with susses to kind of like draw me back to my 1 chord. In fact, that song, Shut Up and Dance, that's basically just a series of 1 chords with sus4s and sus2. I think it's... So that's kind of a nice riff. Now, if you go to a 5 chord, typically speaking, the function of a sus chord on the 5 is to like draw you very hard into the 5, because you're setting up essentially a cadence back to 1. And between sus4 and sus2, sus4 is the one that has a stronger pull back to the 3rd. So the reason for that is that the distance between, so if I play a 5 chord in the key of C major, this is a G, the distance between the 4 and the 3, relatively speaking, on the chord is just a half step, whereas the distance between a 2 and a 3 is a whole step. So it's typically understood that the sus4 has a stronger pull to the 3rd of the chord than the sus2 does. So typically, when you're setting up a pre-cadence, we're going to want to use sus4. So for instance, I could do something like... use a sus4 here. And the same thing wouldn't have quite as much of an effect as a sus2. So short answer is it kind of depends on the chord. For a 5 chord, I would definitely recommend the sus4. I think for other chords like 6, 1, probably either is fine. On a 4 chord, I'll just mention real quick, you almost never want to use a sus4 because the sus4 for a 4 chord gives you this flat 7, which is not in the key. So that's gonna, well, I shouldn't say you should never do it, but understand if you are going to do it, then you are going to be creating non-scale tones in your song. So typically, sus2 is much more common on the 4 chord. Okay, moving along, we have another music question. What is the difference between a sus and an add? I know that add has the third and not the sus, but when would I use an add versus when would I use one versus another? Okay, so this is a really good question. So you're correct. An add and a sus are related, right? Because so in both cases we're essentially using some of the same scale tones. So I'm going to take sus2. Let's do one sus2. So this is, let's see this up an octave, and then contrast this with an add 9. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the third now. So an add 9 has the third, and the sus2 does not have that third. So the thing about an add generally is, you think of an add as it's like the chord that it's like the vanilla chord, except for you're giving it like a little more pizzazz. So like if I take a 4 chord, for instance, the 4 add 9 is going to function exactly the same as the 4 in most cases. So what I mean by that is you can essentially swap the 4 add 9 for the 4, and you're not going to change your chord progression much. But it's going to kind of add this schmaltzy feel to it. The suspension is different because you are intentionally withholding that third to set something else up. So, if I, for instance, play this 5, if I play a 5 with the sus4, I'm essentially setting up the expectation of the 5. So I'd say that the primary difference between a sus and an add is the sus, you are intentionally setting up an expectation, this tension, whereas in the add, you are just kind of sprucing up the chord. Okay, so the next question is, I see the company is coming up with new products like Chord Crush, but the Hookpad product doesn't seem to have had a major update in terms of new features, rhythms, and sounds. Okay. Yeah, when can we expect a new update? So I know it doesn't seem like it, but we are constantly working on Hookpad. And so what specifically are we working on? So we are always working on new features. There is a long list of features provided to us basically by you guys. I mean, the way that we kind of decide what to work on is by your feedback. So your emails, things on the forum. I know that many of you post things on the forum, and you have lots of great ideas, and we can't get to all of your ideas all at once, but I know that's frustrating. I want you all to know that we are definitely listening to you, and we talk about this all the time about what things we're going to focus on. And the reality is we can't implement every idea all at once. So we pick the things that we think are most important. Oftentimes, unfortunately, like the bugs kind of end up getting most of our focus because we feel really bad when something isn't working. But yeah, so for instance, like what are we working on right now? We actually have a fairly significant update to Hookpad in the works. Dennis is an audio engineer that works with us, has created a host of new rhythms for drums and drum patches. One kind of cool technology that we're going to be introducing. So when we first introduced drums in Hookpad, basically it was kind of like those little sequence editors you might see online where you're like, okay, let's put a kick drum here, let's put a snare drum here, and that sounds great. What we actually have now is Dennis, who is, by the way, a fantastic drummer. We've made it so that he can actually play his real drum kit, MIDI drum kit, and we can import those rhythms into Hookpad with all of these little micro timings. So the result is that the drums sound a lot more realistic, and it sounds great actually. So I'm really excited to share that with you. We also have some new synth instruments in the works. A lot of new instrument patches. I apologize we haven't released this sooner. What tends to happen is that we start kind of working on these new features, but they get tied into these bugs that we're also fixing, and we kind of can't release them until we feel like everything is working. One bug that's kind of been plaguing us for a long time is there's been a lot of glitches with looping. A lot of you on the forum have been mentioning this, and so we've kind of reworked this whole thing. But I want to make sure that this is all pretty solid before we get it out. So working hard on getting that out, hopefully soon. Okay, next question. When are you going to start banning the trolls on your site purposely changing the keys of songs to be completely incorrect? So I really appreciate everyone's patience on this issue. No one likes a troll. If you're a troll, please stop trolling. It's really a bummer when you work hard on something and someone comes and vandalizes it. So there's a couple of things that we have in the works. Obviously, we do our best to kind of monitor these things, and we have in the past banned users on multiple occasions that are violating our terms of use or are just being kind of nasty. I think one of the best things about our community is everyone, generally speaking, is quite positive. We'd like to keep it that way. So I think, one thing that we'd like to do is to kind of implement a better way of people letting us know when things are off. So one idea we had is to kind of create like flags for theory tabs, so we can mark, kind of like on Wikipedia articles, we can mark things that are even like off about the theory tab. Maybe a video is broken, maybe something needs chords or they need melody, or maybe this one is kind of disputed, or maybe we can mark edits as being trolly, and that'll kind of generate a system for us to kind of monitor this a little more closely. But we're also open to ideas that you guys have. So and again, it's definitely on our radar. Not something that it's certainly something that we want to be addressing, and just to keep everything positive for the community. Okay, next question. If you could give one songwriting tip, what would it be? So let's see, what's one songwriting tip? There's obviously a lot of things we could talk about. I think fundamentally, if I really had to break down the art of creating a song, I would say that the most important thing, kind of from a high level, that you're doing when you're writing music is you are managing tension. So what do I mean by that? It's like if you write like a movie script or something that has no conflict in it, then it's fine. But some of the best stories, set up some tension that then gets resolved later. And I think writing music is exactly the same way. And the thing is that there are many different ways that you can control tension. And I think that's honestly one of the greatest things about writing music, because some people are really into melody, and some people are really into chords, and some people are really into mixing and in instruments and production. And I think wherever your strength is, you can use that to control tension in some way. If you're on the production side, you can control tension by, if you consider a kind of the classic structure of an electronic track controls tension by giving you more or less, instruments, the frequency of beats, whether you're using drums or not drums, using high pass, low pass filters. In chords, which is something that I'm very passionate about, there's so many clever ways that you can control tension. There are things like putting dissonance into chords. So one trend, going back to like the ads and sus question that we had earlier, one trend in music that I am just really into right now is the add 11 chord. So we take a chord and we actually instead of so the 11 is like the fourth scale degree. People are actually adding the fourth on top of the third to create this chord, and kind of like on its own, like this is so dissonant that nobody wants to hear this in context. But it's crazy when you give dissonance some context, how nice it can be. One of my favorite ways to use this chord is on a 5 chord. So if we start in the key of C, and I go to 6, and on the 5 chord, you add this 11. It's very dissonant on its own, but when it comes from the 6th chord, it's like our brains are more willing to hear this dissonance because this scale degree 1 is already very common to the key. So on its own, 6, this like 5 add 11, it's palatable, but it's clearly dissonant. So we're creating this tension in the harmony, and then when we resolve it, a really nice way to resolve this, I think, is with the 4 add 9. It just feels really good. It's, and it feels better than if we didn't do it, right? So if you just go, 6/5/4 is obviously a very classic progression, and people use that, and it's fine. But it's just so cool how you can add this dissonance and just make any progression a little more interesting. So yeah, and this is like a very big topic, and maybe I'll even try to expand this in another video about like the many different ways that you can control tension in chord progressions. But I think that you should be thinking about it, because that's like the knob that you want to be playing with. One very easy way to get started is just by controlling tension between melody and harmony. We talk about this all the time. In Hookpad, if you turn on the guides, we will show you which notes are in every chord. And so we call these stable notes, stable scale degrees are the ones that are in the underlying chord, and unstable ones are not. When you're writing a melody, just try to mix it up. Just do extreme things first. Write a melody that has only stable scale degrees and see how you like it. And then write one that has only unstable scale degrees, and obviously that sounds horrible. But start mixing them together and see how much tension you can create between the chords and the melody. And play around with that. If it's too dissonant, you can always just use more chord tones. But I think that's probably, if you look at like really expert songwriters, they just do this so masterfully. They create tension in melody in just really incredible ways, and then just release it at all the perfect times. And sometime we'll talk more about examples of that. But it's for me, it's just a joy to listen to and to analyze, like just a really professionally crafted melody and chord progression. So think about tension. The next question is, what are Hooktheory's plans for better customer support? So so I apologize if you feel like you need customer support and you don't feel heard. If you need something from us, the fastest way to get a response is to email our support, so support@hooktheory.com, because we are checking that like twice a day. If you have, for instance, like you paid for Hookpad and you don't have it, something like that, definitely email our support. For feature requests and for bugs, you're welcome to email support too. You can also post on the forum. We don't check the forum as frequently, but we do check it. So definitely appreciate your patience, but we're doing our best to get through all of these. But yeah, I mean, hopefully in the future, we can be, if we grow to the point where we can bring on a couple more people to help kind of work on these bugs, that would be great. Right now it's just us, so yeah, we're doing our best, and definitely appreciate all your support and appreciate your patience on it. But we do try to get to all of the bugs. Okay, next question is: do you have plans to introduce any AI? Any pie in the sky things you think AI could enable music-wise? Yes, we are definitely trying to do some AI stuff. So we have a couple of things actually in the works. So one AI model, which was recently published by someone at Google Magenta, who does like a lot of kind of research in arts, the intersection essentially of computer AI and arts, who basically built a model that can listen to a song and essentially transcribe it or analyze it in Hooktheory notation. So he has this model called Sheet Sage. You can look it up. But we are trying to build essentially that into Hookpad, so that when you all are creating theory tabs, you can start with this AI model that kind of gives you a baseline, and maybe edit it afterwards. It doesn't get everything 100% right, but I think it's pretty cool and it's pretty useful. And if anything, just to kind of get a skeleton for chords, your chords and melody, before you're analyzing theory tabs, I think that would be really cool to do. So we got to work out like how to actually serve that model off of one of our servers, but we're working on it, and hopefully we can give you a demo of that soon. Also, I mean, yeah, it would be awesome if we had some sort of kind of ChatGPT-like assistant. For those of you who are programmers, you might be familiar with GitHub Copilot. This is an AI that it's essentially like having a Copilot sitting next to you when you're coding, and it's pretty amazing. It can generate code, and when we're coding Hookpad, it's now it's something that we use all the time. The thing about these models that you have to understand, like GPT and in Copilot, which is also built on a transformer architecture like GPT, is they are training on just tons and tons and tons of data, just crazy amounts of data. And I think that was really the secret sauce to making them from kind of a cute little pet project to to something bigger. And even with all of the music data out there, I'm not like personally convinced yet that we have something of that caliber yet. But there's certainly a lot of cool work being done in this space, and we are doing our best to kind of keeping a thumb on that pulse. And we would love to kind of have some sort of Copilot in Hookpad that could help you come up with chord progressions and melodies. So definitely on our radar. So hopefully we'll have updates to that in the near future. Okay, let's see. A few times I've run into a bug where I can't move a note, or have to unselect or select something again to recreate the bar. It's been easy to work around the issue, but is there a way to report bugs? Yeah. So again, yeah. If you run, I'm sorry about that. Sometimes we use Hookpad and things like this crop up too. It can be, our goal is to get rid of all of these bugs. So we want your experience using Hookpad to be as good as possible. If you find a bug, definitely tell us either on the forum or by email. the absolute best thing you can do to help us get rid of these bugs is, if you have a way to recreate this. So obviously we appreciate any type of feedback, but if you really want to help us get to the bottom of these the quickest, the best thing for us is if you essentially have a way to reproduce it. So if you give us a list of steps, like, oh yeah, I open up Hookpad and like I write in like these notes, and then like something can't select, we can find those right away. The ones that are really hard are the ones that are super intermittent, where it's like, and I'm, I do this and I do this, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If we can kind of recreate the bug on our own, it's a lot easier to find it. I'm not saying we're not interested in squashing all of the bugs, but we really do appreciate your help on this. Okay, so we're running a little long here, so maybe we'll do one more, and then we'll kind of get some more of these in a different video. So the last one is, how about some sound add-on packs and better control over the output score lead sheet? So yeah, in terms of sound add-on packs, I've kind of addressed this. So we are constantly trying to add new sounds and new genres, new instruments, new patterns to Hookpad. We have a lot of stuff on the roadmap. I personally find it very rewarding to work on kind of new audio functionality in Hookpad. This is something that I don't anticipate we're ever going to stop doing. I think that the better that we can make Hookpad in terms of the audio experience, I think the better it is for everybody. So that's definitely in the works, and I hope that you can expect an update on this soon. In terms of control over output score and lead sheet, so there's been a lot of feature requests associated with kind of our sheet music export. We get to as many of those as we can. What I will say is, so we typeset all of our scores with LilyPond. LilyPond is a free open source application that essentially can convert text in their format to these nicely engraved PDFs. And we have an option in Hookpad to output the LilyPond source. So if there's something, like, oh, you want to notate like a grace note, or you want to put like some sort of marking on, it's relatively straightforward to download the Lee file and make that change in the Lee source. But if you have specific suggestions on features you'd like to see in sheet music export, please let us know. This is something that also we are constantly working on our export, so MIDI export and a little sheet music export, to make that a better experience for you all. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this video. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your questions. Feel free to keep the questions coming in at any time, and we'll talk to you soon.